Hey kids, welcome to Stylus Rumble animation time thing. So today we're gonna play with our little Jammy McJammerface. What was it? Jammy McGraperson. That's what it was, Jammy McGraperson. So before we get started, don't forget to look into the Toon Boom webinars. There's 4 coming up this month. I think one of them might have happened already. I have no concept of time, but mine will be next week on the 24th of May, I want to say. I have it in my calendar. So go check that out. Also, Stylus Rebels hit 2,000 subscribers. Isn't that exciting? I'm really excited. So thanks for everybody who shares my tutorials with people, recommends me, because it's really cool to see the channel growing. So today, let's not jibber jabber too long. But what I want to do is I'm going to play around with this little Jammy character because I want to kind of test it in the field and see what kind of problems I'm getting. Here, I got my feet rotating, so let's clean that up. And so I'm just going to do a little run cycle. So some of you guys have been downloading Jammy, and Philippe Camelo, sorry if I'm butchering your name, but they've mentioned they've got some Z-axis problems. I haven't been able to replicate it thus far. I'm wondering if they've been playing around in the, like, changing the actual Z-axis of the character, because that could give you some problems. Yeah, so that's going to give you some Z-axis problems if you're changing the angle of the character, but if you keep everything lined up vertically, I don't have too many problems that way. So, but let's keep playing around with her and see what kind of problems we have. So I've already decided, just mucking around here, that I need some leg controllers. Try and select these little maboobers in here, the 2-point constraints. That's a pain in the butt. So I'm going to add more handles like these. That's on my list. And what I'm going to do, just open up a notepad and just add notes as I go. This is what I do when I do rig tests. I don't rely on my own memory because, as you can tell from the whole figuring out the dates thing, I'm not so good at memorizing things. All right, so what I'm going to do is a little low budget run. And so I'm going to do 3/4 front run, so this view, but I want to have a little bit of rotation in the run, even if it's just that much. So what I've done is I put the front view here and just tweened it. So now I can take a piece of that, and I'm going to use this for my run, my 2 poses. Maybe I'll even go a little bit further. Oops. So you can take the side view here and paste it, and we can seal a little view from there. Is that too much? I should take that one. So now we've got character going from here to here. Yeah, I feel like that's too much. But that's one good thing to remember. When you're using these rigs, you don't need to use these verbatim if they're not quite what you want, or you can use some things in between here to get a little bit more out of them. So the way I'm going to set up this run cycle is basically the cheapest form of cutout looping that I can. So that way we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'll show you a method of animation, and I'm also gonna test out this rig. Boop. First I'm gonna do my extremes. So here Jammy's running, boom. Maybe we'll bend the knee, and then we'll set up these arms. So I'm gonna show these guys for the controls, bring this guy forward, and bring this guy back. So even though I can't see this back arm, I'm still gonna make a good effort to set it up the way I want, because that way it's gonna tween nicely. So now bend this guy back, and I'm going to set up this extreme super extreme. So everything that I want to do on the extreme, even the stuff that should be overlapping, like this stretch, I'm going to put all that in. I'm going to squish, boop, and squish all this stuff and stretch all this stuff. You're saying to yourself, but Tracy, these things shouldn't be happening at the exact same time. And I'll say, whoa, don't worry. We'll get it all sorted. We'll figure it out. So we could even, if we're being real cheap, we're just going to copy and paste everything verbatim there. And these guys up again. And he's running. It's not as cheap as like a Naruto run. I'll give you that much. So what I'm do is grab. I should have probably keyframed 4 times. Because now we're going to do our passing position. We're going to squat her down. And get those legs going. So the great thing about this is that foot plant, because now you can just muck her knee around, and the foot's going to stay perfectly planted on the ground. For sake of visual simplicity, I could move this down so I know exactly where that leg's going to be, where it lives. But the controls, the point controls, are going to make that work out pretty easily. Let's shimmy that leg back just so I get a nice angle on the foot there, though. I'm going to bring this. Yeah, I definitely need knee controls. Let me just slide this back so it's more central. This is my little passing position, and we're going to want the arms. So this one's on its way back up. Oh, there is one little leg thing that I also need to fix. Let me just show you in the drawing view in case you don't feel like downloading the updated version. So here, her little lower leg, or his little lower leg, these guys are in the back. So the knee one has to come in the front. So fix knee. There we go. So now these are my squat ones. I can copy and paste. And then I just got to work out these legs. So let's grab the generic leg and work out that knee. I've got it on a flat plane, but that's not a big deal. I guess we could just sneak this down a little bit just so it's a little bit more in the foreground. Tidy up that knee joint and then make this pass. And we squish, squish, and bring all this down. So you're probably saying to yourself, like, this is really boring. I know this stuff. This is the stuff I could get from the Animator Survival Guide. Why are you showing me this? But, and also, like, the idea in general is kind of flawed because all of this overlap is happening at the same time. But here's where the trick happens. Once you get your stuff working all right, you can kind of figure out your rough timing as well. Let me just have this stop around 30. We don't need to watch all our other frames. So we're just going to space these out a little bit and watch. Doop, doop. There we go. So set up the cycle. I'll just hide that matching frame. Why are you doing this to me, Jammy? There we go. So now Jammy's doing a little bit of a run. So let's have her stay in the air a little bit longer. Boop, boop. So I'm going to spread it out a little bit more. And wherever she's up, I'm going to have it slow out. Boop. Now it's hitting the ground, so I'm going to leave these alone. The ups, downs I'm going to leave alone. And then up again. So just by doing that, and I'm using this here, I'm using the ease on multiple parameters for that. Now she's got a little bit more time in the air. Kind of looks like she's running backwards, doesn't it? She is running backwards. Why are you running backwards, Jammy? I put my passing position the wrong side, so we're gonna just fix that. Boop. We might have to adjust. Let me check. 0, 0, 33. That's a little bit better. Make sure to put your passing positions on the correct space. So there's going to have to be more finicky around the legs. Like the legs are very, very samey and twinny right now. That's something I'm going to want to work on in a little bit of a less procedural way. One thing I want to do is just figure out this bouncing ball part of it. So here's the y-axis of the master peg. So this is where the actual jump is happening. And I like that I'm getting a bit more hang time up here, but I want my landings to be a little bit quicker off the pop here. So I wanted to hit the ground and then go up pretty fast. So on the right value ratio as opposed to the time ratio, I'm going to pull my flag basically up. That means it's going to, you're not going to get any ease on this coming out there. And then I'm going to make sure that this is nice and long, this part of the arc. So the good thing about these ease things is you can kind of see what your arc is going to look like. So here, 60 might even be too much, but I don't think it is. So here you can see my arc. Boop. And hitting the ground. I want it to come up a little bit faster. Boop. Match my slow out there. Let's see how that feels. That's a little bit nicer. She's like spending a little bit more time in the air. I think my impact, I want to be more impactful. So I think this frame here, I'm going to need to spend some time getting the foot position and stuff so it's about to slam. Maybe hold this up a little bit longer. But before I do that, here's the real trick of what I'm going to do. Everything I've done so far, everything is going down here, everything is going up here, and it doesn't make sense because these leaves should be follow-through action. They shouldn't be happening at the same time. So what I'm going to do is just take all the stuff I want as secondary action, like these leaves, and I'm just going to slide them back a few frames. So let's just try 2 to begin. And so what I'm going to do is slide it forward 2, add a keyframe to the end here, copy that frame, and then bring it to the back. All right. So just by doing that, you can see my leaves are now delayed by 2 frames. And it's not a huge number of frames, but already you can see those leaves are starting to feel a little bit looser. Next thing, I also had some stuff on her eyes. So I'm going to bring each eye over 2. Boop, boop. Grab it and cycle it. So now her eye squishes again. It's just a little bit slower. And it's feeling a little bit better. Now, if you're doing a pendulum type of arm, you could also do this. It doesn't work quite as well with the deformer. A bone deformer, Onion Skin has done some cool things with chaining bone deformers in a similar fashion to this. But for secondary action on just like a cheap cycle, this is aces. Like, you can't get much easier than that. So now I'm fairly happy with this. I'm going to set my keyframes to 2. So here on your timeline, this little dude here, create keyframes on. Frames 2. The first frame is going to be frame 1, and the last frame is 25. So whatever you have selected, it's going to automatically throw itself in there. And it's going to say your 3D path is going to break. And you'll have to check and see. If you've been using your Z-axis to set up your character, and you've been using increments smaller than the 0.001, because you can add an extra 0 in here, that will break this button. That's something I've learned recently. So if you keep your increments within 3 decimal points, then your buttons should work out pretty well. So just by setting this to 2s, I prefer 2s strongly. I just think that it looks a lot better. Oh, this head scrunch. That's something I meant to delay as well. So let's just go find that. The top peg top. So this is this fella here. I'm going to take that one. Make sure I open it up, because if I keep it collapsed, it's going to take the arms and the face and everything. That's going to mess me up. But I just want that top peg to happen just a couple frames later. Let me just take it from the end and add it to the beginning. Bloop, 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 bloop. But let's, now I think this is going to go better with it. So let's try moving this guy. This back one doesn't feel loose enough to me. So I'm going to do that one manually. I'm just going to loosen it up. Whew. Now, usually secondary action, if I'm doing, classical style stuff, I'll do that in by hand, like this. I'll just kind of eyeball it. And I find that usually comes out with, you can see that back leaf is just feeling a little bit more floppy. A little bit less procedural. By doing this rotating cycle thing, you're going to get something that looks pretty procedural. Bloop, bloop. Oh, she's so blobby. Apparently I've got everything on the 3D path and not separate. That's something I'm going to have to work out. I like her blobby. I'm going to keep it. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did with that back leaf and just make these legs feel a little bit more organic. Boop. I feel like a lot of baby animators, they'll do something really procedural like that, and then they'll stop. They're like, oh, my character is running. Great. I have completed my task. But it really just spending a little bit more time breaking up some of the secondary action and giving some more personality to your run, it's going to pay off huge amounts. Got a little, where's the little bloop coming from? Oh, little foot. What are you doing, little foot? What's happening? Oh, you're changing drawings. So let's just make you the same foot all the way along. Now we're not getting bloops. So here I'm going to have my foot drag a little bit. And do the other leg. I think I want this push off to be bigger. So let's bring the character down a little bit and then down a little bit here. So I have to jump off and make sure that those legs are really pushing off. So that'd be this back leg here. It takes some getting used to these new constraints. It's a little bit tricky. I think having the handles in there will definitely just having a visual reminder, like, hey, these are different. I'm gonna keep that foot right delicate. Whee! I like the pointed toe. So also doing cycles like this where the character is running on a treadmill. That's a huge thing to get to know how to do with a little bit of confidence, because most frequently you're going to be doing something like this if you're working on a cutout show. Just because it's reusable. It's much more reusable than something that's running on the ground. And then this is going to be my kickoff foot here. I'm going to just loosen up these hands too a little bit. So like I said, you could do some procedural stuff for the hands, but I'm just going to eyeball it and just do what feels right in my heart. I want to have this hand drag a little bit. You can also, I think it might be fun to do a little bit more of a floppy arm. And she does just have these little kind of flimsy like twig arms. I don't even know what to call them. So you could get away with tons of just goofy stuff like that. I mean, you got a deformer there, you might as well use it. I think the shoulder's a little bit stiff there. I like that. Let's follow through on the other side too. Like I said, even if you can't see it, it's nice to do that back arm because you can set it up, like hide everything else and just animate that arm. So let's just do that for funsies. So over here are the arms. I'm just going to throw in a little display in here. Do the arm that way. And you can't see behind, so I don't have to be 100% with this like flippy floppy bit. This bit would be a little bit more over here. Copy and paste. Floppy flop. And I can just get rid of that display because I don't need it anymore. Floppy floppy flop. The little hand down here. It's just kind of peeking. One thing, even if it might... This hand I don't think goes down that far. Yeah, it does kind of slip below there. But you want to make sure you never have any little suspicious peeking bits. Like this. You might want to just for freeze frame's sake. So even this, you can just sneak it a little bit forward so it's not looking like a little dangly. Flippy flappy flippy flap. Gets a little stiff there. Not quite. This is the best part about animating, is those last few tweaky bits where you really get like stupid with it. Like once you have everything working, then you can start busting everything. Probably save a version if it's something that's important before you start trying to do flappity arms or something. And let's... The character's head going back and forth. Tell me this one's... Yeah, this one's separate. Why are some of these 3D paths and some not? So if you're not sure which coordinate you're looking at, you can open your coordinate control points window and just slide it along and see what's moving here. There we go. It's looking a little bit ridiculous. Flippity flop, flippity flop. Let's swing this one more too. I'm just going to do all of them. Do every single piece. See, I said I was just going to do a quick little thing, and this is what happens. Like, I never listen to myself. I start doing something, and it just goes out of control. But that's, I mean, that's what animators do, yeah? We get a little bit... We're just having so much fun that it doesn't even seem like work. Feel good about this. Jammy's having a good time just running. Just running forever. Whee! And then, of course, the last thing you do, add a top peg and throw the old movement on there. So we'll start you here, run you over there. And, of course, you want that on twos as well. Run, Jammy, run! She's pretty light on her feet. And she's just a little grape. She's having a great time. And I am too. I have a couple little things I want to fix. So far I haven't had any problem with the Z-axis unless I've been moving things around in the Z-axis, like actually trying to move these point constraints. So I think it's important to keep your point constraints at a consistent Z-axis level if you don't want your stuff cutting through other things. But I'll keep playing around with her and see what other improvements I can make along the way. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. Or if you've been playing around with 15 and you don't mind sharing your rig with me, I'd love to see them. Or if you have some ideas of what we can do with all these new toys, by all means drop me a line and let me know. So, thanks for dropping by. I don't know if you learned anything, but I had a great time. I like the little Jammy character, and I hope you do too. Please tag me if you use her, because I'd love to see some Jammy animations. I think that would be really fun. Like, share, subscribe, all those things internet people ask you to do, and I will see you in the next video. Whee! Run, Jammy!